Alright, so first things first, the one who is the storyteller, they are also narrating the story. Yes, this game has a story element, again, that is based off of the number that you get. But the story always starts off the exact same. And the storyteller should read as follows.
Late at night, you and your friends have gathered around a large fire somewhere in the woods. The light illuminates your faces as your friends look upon you with bated breath. Beside you is a large brown leather bag. You reach inside to feel a powdery substance. You clench a handful of the grainy material as you excitedly announce to your friends, "Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society, I call this story." But before you finish your sentence, you throw out a handful of white sand from the brown satchel and onto the open flame. The fire erupts in a bright light as the flame briefly grows higher. As the sand contacts with the fire, you finish your sentence. The Tales of Terror. Our story begins with a group of newcomers, aka the people who are actually doing this game, have found themselves in a small town. The area is dark and cold. Monsters roam the streets and a thick fog covers everything. Voices suddenly begin to speak from the dark. You recognize there are several of these voices, but they speak as one. "Welcome, travelers, to Terror Town. We are the Society of Midnight, and we're afraid you can't leave without first performing a heroic deed for someone in town. Of course, we're always accepting a tribute of fear." After this declaration, the voices become silent, and you find yourselves trapped inside the terrible town. There has to be a way out, and you intend to find it.
Alright, so here we go. Again, you normally have to roll, and whoever gets the highest amount on the die would go first. In this case, I'm going to keep it like this: the nerd's going first, followed by the jock. Um, Before we get into actual um, board activity here, and just to kind of give you a heads up, I might be maybe more down like this, so you might not see their actual faces. To be honest with you, I wish I would have bought extra so they could have been front and back, but I guess I didn't think that far. But before we get into that, the person who is a storyteller, and again, the storyteller will always go last. They control all of the monsters, all of the events. They have a guide that they have to follow based off of the numbers they rolled for the event that's going to be uh, laid out. And so the storyteller knows that this goal the heroes have to do is only activated when they find the area marked as Watcher's Woods. That's the triggering area that the heroes have to find. However, the heroes don't know that. And so what the heroes are going to do is they're just going to look for various areas here, and as they do, they might collect items, they might find monsters, encounters could certainly happen too, which again, we will get to all of that here in just a second. The storyteller also knows that the heroes can win if they return Flynn's severed hand back from Dr. Vink, or if they return his hand to him from Dr. Vink. Anyway, which we will get to that here in just a second. But they know that they can win if they are able to frighten off all of the heroes. And again, the heroes are frightened off based off of the fear meter. If the fear meter reaches 20, then it is a game over for the heroes. So, with that being said, well, now that we know at this point what the storyteller knows, and we know kind of what the heroes know, and that's simply that they are in a dark city, a dark town, and they're just trying to find their way out. And so, here we go in terms of actual what you can do on a turn. Alright, so here we go. So we're going to start off with the nerd. And the nerd has a 5 on speed. Again, the number that you have on your speed skill determines how many of the squares you can move. And so in this case, the nerd could potentially move up here. I mean, if you really wanted to. You don't have to move the full amount, or you don't have to move at all. But you always move first. You always have to move first unless you're trying to retreat or run past a monster, in which in that case we will use that example here in a bit. So I'm going to have the nerd go first. He's actually going to go north. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, before anything happens here, after you do a movement, you have several options. If there were a monster next to you here, you could try to fight that monster. That's one option. You can also try to use a item or equip a item. Well, since we don't have any items here, there's not really any point to use that one. You can also, if there was a monster here, you could also try to retreat from that monster or run past that monster if you're trying to get beyond him. A hero cannot go through a monster, and a monster cannot go through a hero. And then finally, the last option you can do is discover a new area, which in this case, that's what we're going to do because we don't have any items, there's not any monsters here. And so, this character, the nerd, he finds a area here, United Hospital from Tale of the Night Shift. Real fast here, I guess, kind of a just a side note here. You're saying to yourself, well, gee, Tom, why are these squares so small? Can't you make these a little bit bigger? Yeah, I could have. It would have cost a lot more too. And so, perhaps one day in the future, we'll, instead of making these 1 inch, maybe we'll make them a nice 2 inch or something. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So the nerd here has discovered a new area, United Hospital. And so what happens is that anytime you find a brand new area, you draw from the event deck. This is the monster deck. This is the event deck. Honestly, I thought that I put monster on these when I was doing this. Apparently, I didn't. And so I absolutely promise that they are 2 separate decks. And so what's going to happen is that the nerd is going to draw one of these events here. And what does he get? He gets an item.